This video is brought to you by Millinote. When my neighbor tipped me off about a pile of free furniture left out at the curb in front of a nearby apartment building, I jumped in the van, raced over, and loaded up as much as I could fit. Among the haul was this massive 9-drawer dresser. It looks like it's been living in a shed for a few years, but I know exactly how to turn this from roadside trash back into something worth keeping. It is filthy inside and out, but all the pieces are here and I see the potential. This is a 1970s sort of transitional style dresser, mass produced right here in Canada. The body is made from laminate over top of particle board and some MDF panels, but the drawer fronts and the skirting board along the bottom are solid wood. The drawers are even dovetailed. Right now, though, everything is hidden under this common photo finish, which is basically a printed walnut wood grain sticker that was used to make all of these different construction materials look uniform. The raised panels and this heavily corroded ornate hardware sort of lean toward the Colonial Revival style that was popular at the time, but my plan is to simplify things, repair the damage, and give this a fresh, versatile design that will fit right into today's interiors. I've been using Millinote for a long time now as a tool to help me plan and organize the creative chaos that's always going on in my head and help me keep the giant stack of furniture out in the garage moving in the right direction. It's basically an online bulletin board where I can stick photos, links to articles or blog posts, create lists, drawings, pin paint swatches, anything, and organize my thoughts in a really visual way. Here's the board I've made for this dresser makeover. I've added a couple of before pictures of the piece along with a swatch of the main color that I want to use, and my full design concept is in here. I've also made myself a list of supplies to order and a to-do list to help keep me on track once I get started. I've got links to the drawer liner and new hardware that I want to use, and I even pulled together this little chart to keep track of what I'm spending and how long each step is taking me as I go. I started this subboard where I've been sticking inspiration images of other design and decor items that evoke the same style I have in mind for the finished dresser. Another subboard is holding some more examples of furniture painted in the same or similar colors that I've fallen in love with, and they're all linked right back to the original source so that I can quickly find and refer back to them whenever I want. There's a cool web clipper extension that lets me just roll over an image on a website or even highlighted text and save it directly to my boards without having to screenshot or copy and paste anything. And I can even update or add to my boards on the go right from the Millinote app on my phone. It's so easy to use. There are over 100 built-in templates to get you started, or you can use a blank canvas and then just drag and drop notes, links, photos, videos, add arrows to connect items together, and even sketch or write directly on your board. With Millinote, it's also easy to share your boards with others and invite them to edit or just preview, which I think is a great feature if you're working with clients on custom refinishing projects. So you can share all of your ideas and concepts with them and make sure everybody stays on the same page as you work your way through the process. The best part is Millinote is completely free with absolutely no time limit. So if you think this is a tool that you can use too, make sure you sign up for your free Millinote account using the link in the video description. Okay, let's get back to the garage. As always, I need to take everything apart. 1, so that I know exactly what I'm dealing with, and 2, so that I can get it all clean. I am going to pull out all the drawers, remove the hardware, which I don't really think is worth saving, even for another project, and then I'll pry off all of the bulky panels. Usually these are just tacked on with a couple of pin nails, so if you can get a putty knife or a painter's tool in behind one corner, you can wiggle them right off. I also want to check that all of these nylon guides on the backs of the drawers are in place and intact. I usually find a few either missing or broken on pieces like this, but it looks like a lot of these have already been replaced and swapped out with new ones, with the wrong length of screw poking right through the inside of the drawers, so I'm going to have to deal with that later. And I'm going to make sure that all of the wooden tracks that these slide on the inside of the dresser frame are good to go too. I'm not going to need these old mirror braces because I don't have the mirror, and it's not a really popular design choice to have the matching mirror attached above the back of a dresser anymore. But I will tuck these nice solid maple strips away because I'm sure I can use them on something else one day. The bottom board in here is a disaster. This is supposed to keep dust out of the dresser, but it's filled with leaves and dust and dirt. I don't really see any evidence of mice or bugs though, which is great. There aren't any droppings or other signs of critter mess, and it doesn't smell bad at all, just dusty. So I'm going to pull this right out and not even worry about replacing it. Give the interior a really good vacuum to get all the cobwebs and dust bunnies out of every nook and cranny, and then I can give it all a good wash. Okay, are you going to help me clean, or are you going to go back inside? What do you think? You going to go inside? Solid choice. I usually use simple green degreaser to clean the furniture projects that I'm planning on painting. It's great at cutting through really dirty situations like this, but it's also perfect at getting off any old silicone, wax, or oil residue from furniture polishes that were probably used on here at some point, so that those don't interfere with the way my new finish sticks to things. I'm definitely going to be putting some new handles on here, and the ones that I've chosen are a different measurement than I can use in these existing holes. So I'm going to pop some masking tape on the inside of each hole and then mix up some heavy duty filler that I can shove all the way through for a really complete fill that will be nice and sturdy and stay put. This is a 2-part epoxy, just like Bondo, that has 2 separate components. And once you mix the putty with the hardening agent, it starts a chemical reaction that solidifies things in just a few minutes. Because it sets up really fast though, I try and only mix up a small enough glob that I can get placed into the holes before it starts to get stiff. And I'll just keep mixing together new little blobs as I need to. Well, that filler finish is setting up. I'm going to flip this on its back and map out a straighter, more modern profile for this skirting board. I could refinish it like this, but I think getting rid of this wavy design is really going to bring the overall look into today's design preferences and just make it more appealing to more people, which is the whole point here. Once I get the angle I want to cut on each end of this figured out, I'll use my meter stick to draw a nice straight line across the top of all the waves and then cut out all the excess frills with my jigsaw. Really slow and steady with this. I'm just following my pencil line right down the dresser a little at a time. Since this is really the only nice piece of wood on this thing, I want to try and stain it as an accent against the paint that will be on the rest of the dresser. So I'm going to use some 120 grit sandpaper to remove this faux wood grain sticker off of it. Then I'll go back over it with some 180 grit sandpaper to smooth out any roughness and get it ready for stain. With the same 120 grit now, I'm going to buff out or smooth out any flaws on the body where the original finish is scratched or beat up or swollen from moisture getting down to the particle board underneath, and put a little bit of micro texture into this slick laminate surface so my primer has something to really grab onto. We can't leave these screws poking into the backs of the drawers to snag on clothes or scratch up someone's hands while they're trying to put laundry away. So all I'm going to do is back these screws out and replace them with some shorter ones. 1/2 inch instead of 5/8. It's such a simple thing, but makes a huge difference. I totally forgot about all the little pinholes on the drawer fronts, so this Bondo spot putty will take care of them. It's not as heavy duty as the Varaphane filler that I used on the big hardware holes, but it's specifically designed for really tiny imperfections like these, and it dries fast too. So once it is, I'll give it a quick sand and smooth it all out by hand. A dry microfiber cloth is going to help me pick up any of the really fine sanding dust that's on these surfaces. And once I get everything nicely cleaned off, I'm going to mask off the wood strip across the front and pop the dresser up onto some old paint cans just to get it up off the floor so that I can really easily get right to that bottom edge on the sides. If you're a regular here on my channel, then you already know that this bin shellac-based primer is my favorite. It's pricey, but it works every time on every surface with almost every paint, and it does all the things you could ever want a primer to do. It adheres like glue. It seals up porous spots like the filler and creates a nice uniform texture so that my paint looks the same over the filler and the factory finish. And it also blocks in old stains and odors from leaching up over time. Because it's so sticky and it's very obnoxious to clean out of my sprayer, I like to apply it with a good old-fashioned cheap roller cover so I can toss it when I'm done. I'll probably do 2 coats on here. Once I'm finished with the first one, it should be dry enough for me to go back to where I started and roll on a second. Another nice thing about this bright white layer is that it highlights any imperfections that might need a little more filler. The stuff that you just can't see or even feel the textural difference in before it. A little more spot filler, and once that's dry, I'll sand everything one more time to smooth out any roller texture, clean up the dust again, and then we can paint. I've wrapped all the drawers in some masking plastic to protect the raw wood interiors from any overspray, and I'm gonna lay them out beside the body. And this gorgeous neutral grayish called Tapestry is gonna get filtered into my pneumatic spray gun with about 2 tablespoons of water to thin it out just a little bit. About half of this pint of paint with the water should be more than enough to get 2 coats over the body and all 9 drawer fronts. I always test out my spray settings on a piece of cardboard before I point it at the furniture because I need to make sure that the right amount of paint is coming out. I don't want to spray too much and end up with a big drippy mess, or too little and have the paint starting to dry in the air before it even makes it to the surface. So once I get this all dialed in and I like the way the paint is coming out, I can work my way around one surface at a time. I've been getting a lot of questions lately. So this is an HVLP pneumatic spray gun. HVLP is short for high volume, low pressure, and that means it needs a lot of compressed air at a low pressure to make it spray. You can also get an LVLP or low volume, low pressure gun that you can run with a smaller air tank, but the type of gun and setup that I use needs at least a 30-gallon tank. I use a 1.4 millimeter tip, which is the size of the hole in the nozzle that the paint comes out of, because I find it works well with the paints and top coats that I spray on furniture. But you can also get larger tips to spray thicker materials or smaller tips for thinner stuff too. Also, yes, spraying in my garage like this means that there is always a layer of fine paint dust or overspray on everything. There are lots of different tents or booths or air extraction systems that you can use to help mitigate the dust, but I'm okay with constantly needing to clean it up and still having access to a nice wide open space when I need that too. This is what works for me. It may not work for you. I left my first coat of paint to dry for the recommended 2 hours, and I did get really good coverage, but I also still have some patchy spots that need to be filled in, which is exactly what the second coat is for. I'm going to quickly rub everything down with this super fine grit sanding pad to keep things nice and smooth and catch any little bumpies or repaired areas that I still don't like the look of, and then I'll spray on my second layer. Fusion is a water-based acrylic resin paint that's made specifically for furniture, and what that means for us furniture flippers is that it's not just a regular wall paint that's been repackaged, but it's formulated to actually stick to wood, veneer, or even laminate like this when you've done a proper clean and scuff sand. I do still like the extra insurance of my primer layer though, Because it's water-based, it's really low odor and low VOC, so you can safely brush or roll it indoors. And the acrylic resin that gives it its amazing adhesion power also makes it super durable, water and UV resistant, so you don't have to worry about your finish fading or scratching off with everyday use. That said though, I am going to add a few coats of another water-based polyurethane over top of it on this dresser, mostly just to bump up the sheen though, from the paint's matte finish to something more satin. And hey, a few extra layers of protection can't hurt anything, right? I've filtered probably 8 ounces of the poly into my cleaned out sprayer to make sure there aren't any little bits of dried product in there that could clog things up. And then I'll test out my spray again. Because this is thinner or runnier than the paint was, I want a little less product coming out. And once I like how things are spraying, I'll get my first coat on here, one surface at a time again, leaving things to dry for 2 hours in between, a light sand to smooth out, and then the final layer can go on. The poly on this is dry enough to take a bit of handling now, so I'm going to peel back the tape on the wood kick plate, put some new delicate painter's tape over the paint this time, and stain this maple with Fusion Stain and Finishing Oil in the color Light Oak. This is a mix of some stain pigments, linseed, and tung oils, so it takes care of the color and the protection all in one can. All I have to do is brush this over the wood, leave it to soak in for maybe 15 minutes, and then with a clean rag, I'll wipe back all the excess, and it's done. While I've got this laying down, I'm also going to nail one of these nylon feet into each corner to prop the dresser up off the ground just a tiny bit and help protect the more delicate MDF edges on the bottom from vacuums and mops. These are the new handles I've chosen. They're still a really traditional style, and I think the detail on them plays really well with the detail around the edges of the drawers. I need to drill new holes to install these though, so I'm going to measure out and find the center point of each drawer face, and then I can use this jig that's set to the same width as the new hardware holes. Line the center of the jig up with the center I've marked on the drawer and drill. Of course, you can do all of this measuring without the jig too, but I find there's way less room for error and I make fewer mistakes when I do it this way. The last finishing touch is this gorgeous wallpaper that I'm going to use to line the bottoms of the drawers. All the wood cleaned up really nicely with just a bit of sanding, but I always love little details like this that just give a refurbished piece of furniture the feeling that it is truly finished and fresh for its new owner. It's not always necessary, and I don't always do it, but I think it's the right choice here. This is a peel and stick, so once I get them all laid down with no bubbles, I'll just quickly trim around the edges with my box cutter, and I can bring this whole project inside for its final photo shoot. Let's take a few seconds to remember where this dresser started out. Left on the curb, covered in layers of dirt, filled with dead leaves and dust, weighed down with that bulky trim and outdated hardware, and hiding under the fake wood grain sticker that was peeling at every edge. At first glance, most people would have driven right by, but I knew it still had some solid bones and tons of potential. Through all the cleaning, priming, painting, staining, and adding those small finishing touches like the fresh hardware and the wallpaper surprise inside the drawers, this piece has been completely transformed. It was a forgotten throwaway, and now it's ready to fit right into a modern home and be used and loved for years to come. Thank you so much for following along with me through this project. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Make sure you click the link in the video description to check out Millenote, and I will catch you all next time.